Alrighty, hello everyone, welcome to Sinful Gaming and welcome to Mortal Citizens, a Cities of Sigmar podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Dan. How are you, buddy?
Really good, thank you, mate. Buzzing for what's been going on in the Mortal Realms, in Broken Realms Cragnos, and really happy to get some paint on my densts as well.
Yeah, I've bought the densts as well myself. Unfortunately, they are still in their box because I have maybe some people living underneath cities on my paint desk, but they'll get there. Doing them is a bit of a labour of love, but how have you been hobby-wise? You've finally been able to go out for games now.
I know it's been great, to be honest. So my mate Dan, who's my regular opponent, who lives like 10 minutes down the way, we've been playing and we've been talking about getting our small club back together. So we rent like a village hall, and we're gonna, I think, in a couple of Wednesdays' time, we're gonna meet. I think it's still only 6 of us can go, but that's 3 games playing simultaneously. So it will just be back to normality, back to be able to play games. It feels like I've been missing out compared to you guys in Australia. So I've got a bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, and like I'm in the luckiest state of them all. Like, so South Australia compared to Australia, we've had pretty much nothing COVID-wise since like November last year, and even then, that was a very, very small break for us. I think it was like 3 days because then someone lied about working at a pizza bar, and it actually wasn't a big outbreak. But that's a whole nother story. If you want to go look that up, just go look up Adelaide Pizza Bar COVID outbreak. It'll be a fun story to look up. Anyway, though,
yeah, I think when we play next, I'm gonna run an Excelsis army, so it'll be cool to chat about it today.
Yeah. So today we're not going to chat too much about any of the leaks today on the podcast because there's been a ton of them, and we don't quite have the full picture. But what we will do when we talk about stuff in this, we will talk knowing what we know. Like, we're not going to talk about the current edition blindly ignoring what's obviously there. So the battalions may get missed in chatting about them. They exist, and they'll exist in narrative play. But yeah, we won't completely ignore what we know, but we're not going to sort of focus down on too much. Mostly talk about the actual cities themselves. So what we wanted to do today is talk a little bit about Broken Realms in general, and talk because I think I'm correct in saying this. I don't think any army got it as good as Cities of Sigmar and Broken Realms. Would you agree?
I completely agree. It's been, with the exception of, I think, Be'lakor, but still there's like the cities are still like in the lore, they're still front and center. It's been like a bit of a roller coaster, isn't it? And it's been so great to see this expansion of cities into other realms. And it looks like that's only going to continue with these new caravans that are the Dawnbringer Crusades that are going to go out and start even more cities. So I think we've kind of seen the beginning of the expansion and the rollout of more.
Yeah, without a doubt. So what did we receive? We received a new like 4 cities in total. So we literally received a city a book, even though we didn't receive one in one book. But
one of the new cities is an old city revamped, isn't it? I suppose you would say.
Yeah. So 3 brand new cities, and one of them in a revamp. And Jerome, we'll get to questions at the end of the show, but that is definitely a good one. Anyway, but yeah, they just got so much in this. I don't think like every time like I heard someone like, oh, my faction didn't get touched. I mean, that happened in one book for us. And most of the time it's like, there's new stuff. And most of like, out of the 3 books, I don't think there's a book where we didn't get something good.
Yeah, I'd agree. Definitely a lot of utility and a lot of playability, which kind of, I think for us is what Cities is all about. It's being able to bring your model collection together and just use them in a really fun and interesting way. And that you can bring in your daughters or you can bring in your Lumineth. Like, it's just adds so much more. And it's just fun to get your toys on the table and start playing. And this is what Cities does. And this is what Broken Realms has done for playing. And, you know, that's putting aside all the really awesome narrative.
Yeah. And I mean, let's not forget, like, Stormkeepers as well, enabling us to take one city unit inside a Stormcast army. We talk a lot about like how cities players get into other factions by bringing one in for. So you start a Daughters of Cain army because you've got a Harakuron army. Like the amount of times I've seen that pop up in the Discord server where people go, now I was a Cain army, or I had a Settlers Gain army, now I have a Lumineth army, etc. And so Stormcast gave us that as well, to get that access to being able to go into another army and merge is another like good thing that Cities players got.
Yeah.
But with that all said, I want to get talking about, we'll start at the start of Broken Realms, we'll move our forward, and we'll have the major chat about Excelsis at the end, after we go through all of these, because we've chatted about Misthaven, or Misthaven, as some might call it. I say Misthaven now because someone pointed out in the comments I was pronouncing it wrong, so now I'm going to say it wrong every time. But so we'll start with that one because that was the first city we actually got to introduce to. It's the actual new city we got introduced to in Broken Realms Marathi. What are your general thoughts on Misthaven?
When it came out, I've just got to say, Luke, I was just really happy for you, mate. It's like your city, isn't it? It's the pirate city.
Yeah, it's like a ramshackle fleet of like all these different armadas that sort of tie their ships together. It reminds me very much of Waterworld.
Yeah. But it's so like the Mortal Realms, they just do things up to 11, don't they? So it isn't like you say, it's like ships tied together. But imagine a whole city of that, like floating, and it's got different regions and different districts and all stuff like that going on. It's just like, it's phenomenal. Like the scope of things in the Mortal Realms, I think someone said you've got to think of the cities not as being cities, as being like nation sized. So imagine a floating nation of leashed together like pirate ships and stuff. It's just amazing.
Well, you talk about like that nation size, and that sort of is like some of the thing with cities in that they say, what was it? There was an article ages ago where they're like Hammerhall itself is almost the size of the old world across the two realms. Like just to put into perspective, there are entire districts the size of like states inside Hammer. Like there's 4 entire forests. There are 15 realm gates inside Hammerhall itself, and realm gates aren't common. Not to mention the actual like the giant gate that is the main focal point of the city.
Yeah, and I really like the rules for it as well. I think that more movement shenanigans, the better.
Yeah, Misthaven. Like getting back on topic with Misthaven, it's Living City, and like that's fine because it's allowing you to play Living City with different models. It's putting you down like Living City very much is probably Dwarden and Wood Elves, I would say. Mainly because it's either trying to show you the Wood Elves, and like that's the Wood Elf, the old Wood Elf players playing their army. We've talked about this before, but also you have Dwarden in there to show the opposing army playing as a Living City thing. I think is really cool. The other cool part of Living City.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. What did you think about the changes to Anvil Guard?
I'm not going to lie. When I first heard that Anvil Guard fell, I was a little bit annoyed. I won't say it because like everyone knows it's my thing. Scourge Privateers are definitely my thing, and the like Anvil Guard fell. But I will say I actually like the rules for it. It changed up my stuff. It allowed me to bring Daughters of Cain models, which just sort of, it did the same thing that we're talking about Living City doing just a second ago. It's great for old Dark Elf players.
When it says you can still play as a loyalist army, I think it should just read, you can still be Luke Stone if you want.
Yeah, I have a feel. I still remember all the memes going around with the tier lists and the Luke Stone plaqued on the tier list with a Scourge Privateer. But like Anvil Guard's cool. Like Hakuron, Anvil Guard. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a new cities book to see Anvil Guard obviously removed. Like that would make sense. But then I think at that point, Hakuron took a lot from Daughters of Cain and Anvil Guard. I think you can bring more of Anvil Guard into it and make it a little bit different there.
Yeah, what a start to the saga though when that happened. I mean, when that happened, I really was just like, okay, it's like no holds barred. Anything can happen. This is like end times again. Stuff's just going to get annihilated. New stuff's going to crop up. Let's just like wait and see what happens.
And yeah, like that was the cool thing. I think with the single act here, they showed that they were willing to pull some punches, like to actually punch, to like just hit, like actually go for like something adventurous and not just go. 40k is a perfect example to pick on with this in like the Vindicta and Marathon. I forget the actual name of it. The whole thing where they rip the galaxy apart and you go, oh yeah, but it's back to fine now.
The Cicatrix Maledictum.
Yeah,
is that what it is?
It's like, yeah, they destroyed it but didn't destroy it.
There you go.
And, yeah, anyway, but like actually changing, like making Marathi a god, that was cool. Being able to bring Daughters of Cain in, it's just another play. And both cities, like, well, Misthaven might have offered, say, a very similar playstyle to something we already had, but with different models, which is fine. Hakuron, I think, gave probably the most aggro cities army out there now. I don't think there's a more aggro cities army than Hakuron, where it's literally just buff up your unit with as many buffs as you can and charge them in.
Yeah, I think it was surprising to me like how good Hakuron is, I suppose, because I think that it's kind of bordering on like as good as the cities in the book.
Yeah, like we talked a lot about like Misthaven. Misthaven is certainly probably in that sort of middling tier. It's, you know, with say Anvil Guard and all that stuff. It's definitely not like at the Living City Hallowheart level, where Hakuron's probably somewhere in between them. It's probably sitting alongside like Hammerhall there. Which is cool. We got two great cities that gave us different ways to play. We didn't, or allowed us to play with different models in certain ways. Which once again is just a great thing about cities, that they just continuously allow you to have this collection of models that you can play in so many different ways.
Yeah, and then what did we have next? Was it tech list next? I've got them all kind of laid out.
Laid
out here, yeah.
Broken Realms checklist was number 2. This bad boy, and that like just continued on from Marathi. Like it showed that like they weren't put like not throwing down. They went all out in this. If Marathi taking a city was the first stage, they went so much further with this one in what they did and the consequences. And Jerome, just so you can know, you're asking a question there, what units does Misthaven use? So Misthaven allows you to ambush effectively, what is it? Shadowblades, Order Serpentis, Scourge, Privateer. That's it, isn't it? I believe it's the 3. And then you have to start on the board to allow a unit to ambush, has to either be a Free Guild, Dwarden, or Darkening Covens unit. So you're effectively doing
right,
1-for-1.
Right off the dome, Luke. Got it all stored away.
Yeah.
No
so effectively, you have to have one of those 3 on the table, and then you get to put one of the other 3 in reserve. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Broken Realms Techless, what were your thoughts on it? I'm just going to adjust my mic, which seems to be being a pain.
So I really loved this game. I thought it was a fantastic city. I really liked the idea that it was kind of helped along by the Lumineth, and they kind of needed them to survive and to guide them and to teach them all these new magics, but at the same time were kind of a bit resentful of them because of how controlling they were. I like that it had this, like, it has like you go up the stages and the kind of the more you progress in knowledge and things, the more powerful and high up you get in the society. But obviously a lot of the humans die off before they get that far. And it is a literal ascension. It's like a big tower that you like climb up, and if you get to when you get to the higher stages, you get to like the higher floors. And there's an ability in here, isn't there, where you can give one of your heroes fly. And I just think of him just thinking, I've gotten to this level now, I'm not using the stairs, I'm flying to the top of the tower, because I'm that good now.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm just going to change over my mic. But yeah, I think Settlers Gain was obviously the part that like we were looking at in the city, and I think it was really fun and interesting. I'm hoping I can hear out of the new headset. It's a tiny little terrible one. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
No. All right, it doesn't work, the new headset. Anyway, we'll go back to the old one. So for me, yeah, Settlers Gain was just such a good city that allowed so much different things to just come about. It was just so much fun. And it offered a very different way to play than like Hello Heart did with Magic.
Yeah, and the lore made me really pumped for Luminarchs, and then so I was pleased to see that the battalion had Luminarchs in it, because it's all about the realm of light and searing and burning death away and things like that. So I think that was cool.
Yeah, this was a city that really focused on taking your allied unit in it to become most effective. Where, say, Hakuron doesn't require you to take much more than a Daughters of Cain priest, and even then, you don't need to because there's a command trait in it. Settlers Gain really wanted you to take Lumineth and get the most out of Lumineth units in a city's army.
Yeah.
I don't think there's like, maybe Living City is the only one that does something similar, I think, where it's making you take Sylvaneth units like Durthu to get the most out of them and stuff like that, where it's got very specific abilities. This, once again, was like slightly restrictive like Misthaven. The fact that only, what was it, Collegiate Arcane heroes can take artifacts from it and can take spells, because it's only Collegiate Arcane wizards that get the spells as well.
And also, I'm reading the ability here for Elven Training, which is a command ability that you can use. And if you do so, you pick one Settlers Game Lumineth Realm Lord's hero, and you don't take Battle Shock tests for Settlers Game Free Guild or Settlers Game Collegiate Arcane within 18 inches. So it pushes you down that route. Yeah,
you're effectively going humans and elves. But it's really cool. There's obviously some great combos. We did a full show like going into a lot more detail on tech list. So if that's something you really want to have a look at, there is a Mortal Citizens episode all dedicated to the City of Settlers Gain.
And just on what you were saying there, Luke, that it's humans and elves, I think that's damn right, to be honest, because what self-respecting dwarf or dwarven would want to live in a city governed by elves?
Yeah. It'd be interesting. Like, see, that's like a story I'd like to see explored. Is like, why is this dwarven there? Like there's stories to tell. I can, there's some cool stuff in that city. I think it might be the most competitive city out of all of them.
I know why the Dwarven would be there now, and I know, we said we're going to talk about things that we know. It's because he's the priest in all of the cities. So you need a priest.
Yeah, like priests are going to be amazing. And like, side note, like I can't wait. I'll be taking like Rune Lords suddenly look like really good.
Yeah. Yeah, out of nowhere, they're just like, bing.
Yep, 6 up water on all my units. Yes, please. I'll take 2. Like suddenly Eternal Guard with a Rune Lord behind them. Been swearing by them for a while. Anyway, we then got Be'lakor, and I was a little bit disappointed we didn't get rules for Vindicarum, because it actually survives the book.
Yeah, I did think that, but then it's more about the Stormcast, isn't it? This book, I suppose.
Yeah. So obviously, this is effectively the book that gives us the reason why we're getting the new look Stormcast. This is the narrative sort of Be'lakor creates clouds over all the mortal realms, or at least big portions of different realms. There are different realms more affected by it than not. And
yeah. So essentially, when a Stormcast dies, they kind of teleport themselves back to Azure, and then they're reforged. And now that process has been interrupted by Be'lakor. So the poor old OG original liberators and things like that, they're going to struggle to be reforged now when they die, and they might start dying off and things like that. There's some serious implications for the Stormcast, and therefore for the cities, because what we're going to fill all the chambers with in the middle of the cities if the Stormcast are sort of dying off.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they do talk about how, like, in the Cities of Sigmar, it is very clearly dominated by the warrior chambers. Like Castellants and Veritants and Relictors all have major purposes inside cities. Like the Relictor is effectively like the high priest representing Sigmar inside a city. And a Veritant, it pretty much senses and sorts out corruption within cities, and a Castellant generally maintains realm gates within the city or surrounding areas.
I'd love to see, just on a side note, I'd love to see more about what the Veritants do and get them linked in with the Order, like an agent of the Order of Viziers, just try and like purge the city of something.
Yeah, because like the only time we've ever really got any lore for a Veritant is inside City of Secrets, where you have the White Reaper, which actually, funnily enough, we'll be talking about very soon. But like, yeah, like the Veritants are supposed to be like, and it wouldn't surprise me, like you said, that they maybe play a part with the Order of Ziv, much like we know the Relictor plays it with the actual temple, how he's sort of like that go between the Stormcast and the clergy of the cities. And you have your Castellant, who generally, maintains city defenses, observes realm gates to make sure the realm gate remains safe, etc. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see like more of these Stormcast roles, because it is the warrior chambers that fulfill a lot of the city's role. Oh yeah, and as Jerome points out, there is a Veritant we get to look at in Morathi, obviously, Van Brecht.
Yeah.
But
then I think, go on.
But now let's talk about the book we're here to talk about. the Lord of Earthquakes and Jumping in Space Portals. The man who hates all things dragon. We have Cragnos. This was, I think, one of my favorite books. You there? I think I've lost Dan for a second there. Oh well, he'll be back. So yeah, Broken Realms, Cragnos. This book here, it just was one of, I think, the best ones that we did, and really sort of hit a ton of different nails on like a ton of different heads with it. It gave so many armies, and we'll talk a little bit about it more. And Dan's disappeared. There we are. You're back. I can see you again. No, all good.
I don't know what happened there.
Oh, good. Sorry about that. It happens. Live podcasting at its finest.
We've got headsets, we've got connection dropouts, you name it, we'll bring it.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot more to talk about, I think, in Cragnos for cities than people might first seem, because we've got 2 new Sylvaneth units, and boy, well, one new, one revamped, but they're really cool, and we'll talk about them in a sec. But first of all, what are your overall thoughts of like Broken Realms Cragnos as a book, like the story, everything about it? What do you think as a book?
Luke, that we just recorded over on my channel something about the old world for Wood Elves, and that's my big love. So I don't know how much of the lore we can talk about, but there's something really significant that happened for people who love Wood Elves and love Wanderers, I suppose.
Yeah, there is.
So that side of it, I mean, I love Cragnos, and I love that he just goes on a massive rampage, and I love all that sort of stuff. But for me, it was all about the stuff that happened with the cities and with, the Sylvaneth.
Yeah, the Sylvaneth stuff at the start. Like, I was sold on Cragnos after reading those first few pages about Alariel and her big plans. And spoiler alert, I don't care. It's been out for what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks now. if it's too late, you know the show's about Cragnos, so and Excelsis. So spoiler: if you're still here, it's your own fault by this point. Effectively, the Oak of Ages comes back, and she effectively pretty much makes Atheldoran a thing in the realm of life. But the big thing that Alario does is these Warsong Revenants are effectively seeds of the Oak of Ages spread out through the realm, so Alario's song reaches further than ever. And so they effectively play her tree song rather than just the normal trees that sing to each particular Sylvaneth in each forest. This is Alario's song being broadcast across the realms.
They're kind of, I'll tell you what they're kind of like is, now you won't know where this is, but there's a place in Wales, it's this old South Wales, not New South Wales, called Barry Island. And there's, when you go to Barry Island, it's really beautiful and picturesque and like the nature is really nice. And there's these massive, great big speakers they have up on poles. And if somebody drops any litter or something, they go, "Do not defile the nature reserve, pick up your litter." I think that's what the Warsong Revenants are like.
That's brilliant. That's great. Like, just to make people like really awkward. I mean, that's a great way. Like, people hate being like ashamed and like singled out. So like that would be a great way to stop litter. If you've got the time and money to pay like people to do that, like it's a great way to keep your nature reserve great. But yeah, the Sylvanethians we'll talk about. Oh, let's talk about them now because we're talking about them. For me, the interesting thing here is we've got two new Sylvaneth units. Well, one revamped, one brand new. We got a new War Scroll for Alario. She's pretty cool. And we've got the Warsong Revenant, who is really cool. And he's a massive model compared to what you think.
Yeah, he's like Tree Lord size.
Yeah, he's on one of these bases.
Yeah, he's really, for a Revenant, he's really, really tall.
Like he's only a little bit bigger. Obviously, he's got his big flamboyant cloak and everything around him, but he's actually a little bit bigger. Like he is bigger himself as well.
I think this is a good like positive change for the Sylvaneth that they're going towards Revenants, because I feel like I love the Revenants, but they're not. I feel like they're not represented enough. I suppose they can be overshadowed by other units. I think you might see 5 of the usual Revenants, and then you do see more Spike Revenants in the battalion with Dryker. But I just feel like I want to see more of them because they're kind of like the elves of the Sylvaneth. So I like this.
And maybe we will with the changes to unit coherency and stuff. Like they're a good small unit. Like they've got Ren, they've got good attacks, they can get good buffs. And they don't require plus to hit buffs. The buffs they generally get are +1 attack, which is nice. So as we know, like you can only go to +1 -1 now. I think they could be really cool for cities, like maybe taking something with. I'm thinking of trying in my living city, trying a unit of tree revs with a arch revenant, and then also give him the Wardroth horn. To just really have this big hammer unit.
So what do you think about the Warsong Revenant's ability to cast, I guess bearing in mind that we already have the Sorceress?
His thing that he does for cities is he gets the whole lore. He, on his War Scroll, states that he gets the lore of the Sylvaneth. So that for me, actually, let's go. I'm going to pull up the Sylvaneth Battle Tome on my app. Let's have a look through all the spells because both him and Alario bring this to the table. This is what for me, is the big thing they bring. Because obviously the Sorceress is a much cheaper option than him. So if you're wanting a +2 cast, I mean, is she though? Because technically it's 180 points to bring her like that. That's still cheaper than him though, isn't it? He's 2 something.
Yeah.
I believe that's still cheaper than him. I'll double check. Where are the points? Warsong Revenant. He's 275. Wow, yeah. She's almost 100 points cheaper, even bringing her entourage, which effectively make her -1 to hit. So Like,
And
it's
and
for
to
me, it's
get the
about
most out of the
spells.
Warsong, to get the most out of the Warsong Revenant, you also will want a Wildwood as well. So then you're going to have to invest even more, I suppose, to get that way.
Yeah. For me, so he's obviously got Throne of Vines, which gives him another +2 to cast.
Yeah.
Regrowth is nice though, like the ability to have 2 spells if you're playing Living City that do D6 heals. And he's a double caster, so he could cast both. He could cast 2d6 heal on another model. Whether that be a Durthu, because Durthu is awesome in Living City, because he can shoot, or even a 2d6. He has to heal Sylvaneth with this spell. Okay, so yeah, it's a Durthu or an Alariel. But at that point, you're taking Alariel herself if she's doing this. So it's a Durthu, really.
Yeah. I'd say so. I was just thinking, man, those two together, there's quite a lot of healing potential, isn't there?
Yeah. Dwellers Below, good dudes. Pick one enemy unit within 10 to the caster. You roll a number of dice equal to the number of models. And it is just within, it's not wholly within, so that's really cool for a 10-inch cast. Just have to be, you roll a dice for each model. On all 6, it's a mortal wound. That might lose a bit of value in the coming edition, that particular spell. It might not be as effective as it did when you probably max going to see. On average, most armies won't have more than a 30-man unit as their biggest unit.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing the obvious big armies.
The thing about that one is it? Did you say it's 10-inch models within 10 inches?
No. So you pick a unit within 10, and then you roll every model in unit. Yeah. So that is good. I was trying to find the wholly within there, and it didn't have it. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's okay then.
I was just thinking about because you get extra casts, just putting that through a spell portal turn 1.
Yeah, so that could give Living City access to pretty much what you do in Hallowheart with actually, get the spell. You got the Hallowheart Flame spell, but that's 4+ for mortals. But that's a very common thing that I've done to many people with their Horde unit at the backfield and just go, ha. I remember playing my mate Slanesh army with that very combination and removing. I think I rolled really hot, and out of 30 Daemonettes, I think I killed 27.
Ouch.
Turn 1 through a spell portal. Like Slanesh even old Slanesh had no way to counter. Like I think I rolled a 21 and a 22.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. Then you got Deadly Harvest, so it's each enemy unit within 3 of the casted D3 mortals. He's got a big base, so that could be cool. But he's also, he's not particularly fighty. He's not terrible, but he's not.
He's got the ward save
fighty.
that gives him a bit of
Yeah. So he could that could be cool if he goes into like the hero block at the back your opponent's got. Those 3 or 4 heroes sit next to each other. Virtuous Harmony. We can return models to Dryad and Tree Revenant or Spike Revenant units. So this is cool. So you pick one friendly Sylvaneth unit with wholly within 18, and you can return 1 slain model to that unit. If it's a Dryad, Tree Revenant, or Spike Revenant unit, you add D3 models to the unit instead of 1. So that can bring back Kurnoth Hunters.
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it? Because they're what you want to ally in, really.
Because that could be really cool. Because what you could have him doing that, plus which allows you, if you've got say 1 and a damaged Kurnoth, 1 full, 1 damage, you can heal the damaged Kurnoth and bring back another Kurnoth.
Yeah, that's really nice. So we're saying the Warsong Revenants and Kurnoth Hunters and the Wardroth Horn. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, that could be cool. And then you got Tree Song, which is, I believe that. You can reroll hit and wound rolls for melee weapons, so long as you're within range. You need a Awakened Wildwood to do it. So I think that's just too much. You're asking for... Although, with how the game is changing and how army structure, do you think we're going to see more 12-unit armies? Because that obviously opens a lot of doors for cities here in 12-unit armies.
I think what we were saying before that we think kind of cities might be unchanged by these rules because everything is battle line, so there's no real fear of how big you take your units or not. You're only limited by how many it says on the battle pack. So I don't know for cities. I think we are going, but I do think coherence might have a change that, for example, cavalry. I think you won't take 10, you'll take 5s, things like that. So maybe
unless they've got steers. I did post a video like there's a formation you can do, which actually looks nice on the table. It's not a stupid looking formation to make cavalry work. And most of the cities cav, although like we'll probably see like outriders in 10s, like outriders work in 10 still because they don't care about combat. They don't care about combat efficiency. And like I've played Lumineth a bit now, so all these rules I got a little bit of practice with. But yeah,
nice to see them updated, and a bit of utility if you want a strong spellcaster. And Alariel, much better than she was, gone up a lot in points, but I think we'll see points go up across the board. So we'll just have to see how she falls in line with the rest of the points increases.
Yeah, if points increase that make her like in the range where she probably should be, she's an interesting choice. Now, there's something to note too about Alariel. That she's not under 6 inches on her base. She can't actually ever deep strike. Her base is wide, is because she's on the big circle. There's no way you can obviously spin that to make it less than 6 inch. She can't actually deep strike.
Yeah, but she will be able to benefit from the second move that you get after shooting. She'll better do that onto herself. So she already has a 16-inch move. Then she's got the Spear of Kurnoth, and then she'll be able to move 16 again. So it's not the end of the world for her when you've got a 32-inch move. Yeah,
it's not the end of the world. It's just remembering she has to be on the board. So she can be like sniped out and all that sort of stuff.
It's weird that she has that. She can have that ability in Living City. She's got a little bit more utility in her movement in the Living City army than she has in her Sylvaneth army.
Sylvaneth are better in Living City than they are Sylvaneth. I proved this with Durthu. Where I took Durthu. So for those who don't know, I put a whole like little tournament report together for I took 1,500 point tournament, and I took my Living City army, and I took effectively the super Durthu build. With some Wildwood Rangers, and Durthu just minced everything. Absolutely. With that Spear of the Hunt, he is striking first, +1 Ren, so it becomes Ren 3. And because he's got a shooting attack, you can bring him on, and there's nothing your opponent can do to stop it. Like 9 inch away, he's getting into whatever's 9 inch. Like because he's got movement. 8.
He has to make he's just great in Living Cities, isn't he? I think. And also the changes that they've made, so just for your list, the changes they've made to the Awakened Wildwood, I think are really good because you don't have to have all 3 pieces of it down. You can just have 1 piece of it down now. So it just gives you more space to be able to squeeze that in and maximize your utility out of Durthu.
Yeah, because obviously the other part you do to that is you're bringing a Tree Lord Ancient alongside Durthu, who can then summon an Awakened Wildwood for free. But that's talking enough about Living City and that stuff. Let's talk about the Vendetta next, because they're all cities. And then we'll talk about Excelsis last. So, Vendetta. This is our other daughter, Witch Hunter combo team.
Here we go. Excelsis. Just want to say, obviously, you carry on, Luke.
Yeah. So, Excel, like the Vendettas, they're just absolutely fantastic, aren't they? Two of them. And I'm dying. So the Vendettas, they are really, really almost to
Hello?
We're both gone.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah. Cool. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. I hope the internet is working a little bit better now for all of us. So yeah, the densts. So what are people thinking of the densts? If you can still hear us in chat, let us know. Internet is being a little bit of a butthead. So the densts. I'll be really interested to see what everyone thinks of them. They're pretty darn cool. I think there's... Oh dear. I sound like a robot apparently. All right. Hello, everyone. So, hope we're doing all right, and the sound is coming back a little bit better. Apologize for the interruption. Everything seems to be working a little bit better now. So, just lost Dan for a second. But yeah, the densts. So, for me, they're pretty cool. Obviously the abilities to get rid of the different like ender spells and how they can shoot off the ender spells. She for me is really interesting. We were talking a little bit about how we think she's really nice in Living City, how she can sort of come on alongside another unit and shoot around and do a whole bunch of cool different things. Her just range attack, the ability for her where she's damage 2 and she's got the extra damage, and all of that sort of stuff that she does. It's just really, really nice. She just has so much potential to bring just a different sort of playstyle to the game for her. So with that, though, we've got just a ton of different things. Apologies, Dan's internet has given out on him. But yeah, I think she's the better one of the two. I mean, they both get the extra damage when they're dealing with wizards and all that sort of stuff and against demons. He could be really cool as well. I mean, he's got retreat and shoot or retreat and charge, which is really nice for an ability. So that gives him a ton of stuff to do. And you've also got like other things from him as well. So you could Grim Resolve, so does she. So they've both got a 5+ DPR. This is really nice. It means we don't have to take they're not having artifacts isn't an issue because they've got effectively an artifact we would be putting on them. And then she's got a sure shot as well, where she gets another attack if she doesn't move. So she's got 2 shots with her crossbow, and she becomes Ren 2 damage 2. And she adds 1 to a hit roll, so you become 2s and 3s. Can be really nice to bring alongside a unit and just snipe out a hero from ambush in Living City. Funnily enough, Living City again. Another one she just makes great use of. Or even like Tempest Eye, where she gets to move in the first turn and gets that little bit of extra armor. Because extra armor could be really cool on them because they got the 3-up save if they have Tempest Eye on the first turn. So there's just a ton of different things to do. So what are people's thoughts, though, on this city? I'd love to hear from everyone on what they sort of think of Tempest Eye, not Tempest Eye, on the densts, rather, not a city, the 2 characters. Like, it's really cool to actually get, like, a bunch of different characters that are, like, just getting named characters for a city is really, really fun, I think. And so If and when Dan gets back, we'll have a chat to him about everything we've got here for the thing. And here he is back and good. Sorry about that, buddy, everyone. But he's back. We got here. I just had to talk about the Vendensts by myself. So I've just finished talking about them. What is your thoughts on the Vendensts?
I'm probably going to say exactly what you said, is that it's great to have lore, and we've had lore, like you said, in 3 out of the 4 books. But how much better is it to have cool new models that you can take on the tabletop? I love them, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to taking, especially Duralia, and just shooting some wizards off the table, like you said in Living Cities. Come on the side. Let's have a look at your wizards. Or even more, when I play Dan down the road, I'll be like, right, let's have a look at them bloodthirsters. Let's punch 8 wounds in him, turn 1.
Yeah. I also talked about like Tempest Eye is another nice one because they are a 4-up save base. So this puts them up to a 3-up with a 5-up after damage save in Tempest Eye on turn 1.
One thing that I thought about Duralia as well is the command ability Finest Hour gives +1 to wound. So it doesn't matter what army you take her in. If you do that and she's stationary, she's then hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, and it doesn't matter which faction you're with, that's going to happen. For
That's
1 turn
really
at
cool.
least.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Human. So they do unlock Flagellants as battle line if they're your general, I guess. That's a thing. Which is thematic. You could build like a really cool army based on like the whole story of Excelsis.
But Flagellants are like, the devoted of Sigmar have a really close relationship with the Order of Azure.
Yeah, for obvious reasons. Well, it's not like they've got some cool rules. I mean, he's by far the weaker of the two, but they're like both worth their points. Like 115 points each. I think they're well worth their points.
He's situational. If you've got a unit of 10 demons and he charges into them, he's got 6 attacks that rend 1 damage too. So he's gonna slice through them quite nicely.
Plus, he'll have shot them first with 3 attacks, rend 1 damage too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he can retreat and shoot, retreat and charge. That's really cool.
He's for his age, he's really nimble. He's movement 6, which is the same as an elf.
Yeah, it's supposed to be that he's like learnt to like fight and move.
Duralia is just bogged down by the massive crossbow, so she's 1 inch lower.
Yeah, but they're really cool. Like just having named characters for cities is awesome. New models for cities. Now, Orphan Khan rules, please.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to talk Excelsis. So let's hope we can get through this and nothing dies. Excelsis, what are your overall thoughts of Excelsis? Yay, nay?
From the outset, so Excelsis is the city of secrets and the city of prophecy, and they do have rules that reflect the prophecies, things that they know are going to happen, and it was foretold that this was going to happen and what have you. I want to say that I love Cities of Sigmar. I really, really do. And I know when we talked about making our own city of death, I said I don't want to live in a city of death because the mother-in-law will die, but she'll still be around as a spirit or something. I don't want to live in Excelsis because I feel like it's going to be full of people who said, I told you so, because it's been foretold in a prophecy.
I mean, if you don't do that, if you're playing Excelsis, you should be like saying that every time. Every time you make that roll and you get like the gift of prophecy roll.
Yeah.
On a 2+, I told you so. Or damn it, shoddy merchant. But yeah, so we'll go through the rules. Now, Excelsis is in Gur, which I believe gives us artifact to what? Well, we won't even bother talking about the realm artifact because we don't know whether it exists soon.
But there is a realm artifact that is back from Gur, but we'll get to later.
Yeah. So you've got the gift of prophecy. So this is what we were just alluding to. You effectively can roll a dice. On a 1, you're -1 to hit. On a 2+, you're +1 to hit. And this can be used once per turn, once per phase on any unit, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Once per phase is really nice because you can do it shooting and combat, and then if you've got, I don't think that there are any ways to get you to do extra attacks in different phases in this army.
Just checking a particular unit, but yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, it just gives you that little bit more than once per turn, so it's definitely usable. So you can use it in a shooting phase and in the combat phase.
You can use it in the charge phase with one unit. Pistoliers, they shoot in the charge phase. They shoot immediately after they charge.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think about that. That could be fun.
And then is that the same watch as well then?
Yeah, so that would be the same as any of the Overwatch units as well, because they shoot in the charge phase. Because Pistoliers is hail of bullets. After this unit makes a charge move, it can shoot. That's in the charge phase to me.
Cool.
And the other units have the reverse of that rule, where if they're charged in the charge phase, barring restrictions. So I don't think there's any hero phase activations though you can get in cities. I don't remember any, and none come to light.
No, I can't think of any. That's what I was trying to think of. So that's cool. So we've got 3 phases that you can potentially get +1 to hit in. So 3 times a turn is pretty good.
Yeah. Pistoliers also make all use of that because they're good in combat. They get charge phase of bonus, and they have good shooting attacks too. So I hadn't actually thought of them until you just said about trying to find the out of phase, the out of main 2 phase stuff. And I'm like, oh, actually. Ooh.
And what's cool about this is it's just pick a friendly unit to shoot or fight, and you can say that attack has been prophesized. So it's not wholly within anything, or you have to bring a hero. You can be the prophet of the board and be like that unit.
Yeah, so that's what's really cool about this, is it allows units to play independently. So this just immediately makes units with good war scrolls better. That's what this does straight up. Things like Phoenix Guard love this rule because they just get better.
I was thinking of cavalry for this because we always say, don't we? We always go on and on about how when cavalry charge in, they get the additional rend and they get the additional damage, but they're really difficult to actually hit with. And get that damage through. So I was thinking this would be quite good on some cavalry units.
Yeah, and it
pull them up.
It obviously boosts all those units, but just innately, if a unit's good, this makes it better because it can now get +1 to hit. Things like Iron Drakes make really good use of this because they become independent. This allows units in your Wanderers to become independent as well because you're no longer having to bring a Nomad Prince for +1 to hit. And as we've talked, Sister of the Watch are going to get 3 phases out of this. There's definitely quite a few different ways to sort of make this work. It's a really interesting ability. And yes, it's a gamble, but I think I'd take that gamble every time for +1 to hit. And if it goes sour, you could spend a command point because it's... this is when you pick a unit. So no, it is after... I believe now the new command abilities are used at the start of the phase. So that is after.
But as you said, it's a gamble that's definitely worth taking.
Yeah, and if you've got the command points to spare, you can make it not a gamble. But then you got the command points to spare, so why? Yeah, because you're not getting bonus. So yeah, it's a gamble. And then we got Riposte. This is really cool. This is the command ability we get for the city, which is effectively 6s to save, do mortal wound splashback.
If you're within 12 of a hero.
Yeah, and it's just hero. It allows any Excelsis unit. So this is a city, not like Settlers Gain or Misthaven. You've got full... In fact, this is the only city that we got in Broken Realms that has free access. There's no restrictions anywhere. Now, there was one I was looking at for this, and that is Sister of the Thorn combined really nice when you put this on a Wanderer's unit.
Yeah, because you already get that splashback damage with the Sisters of the Thorn spell on your Wanderer's unit. So you'll be doing... you'll be doing 1 mortal wound back on a 6, but then you'll be doing 2 mortal wounds back on a 6 now.
Yeah. Now, it currently works really nice on Stormcast units as well, because they have rerollable saves. However, there is the rumor that Stormcast are maybe getting +1 save rather than their rerolls. And wouldn't surprise me, they have been going towards that as a thing. I mean, Cities is a testament to it.
Yeah.
So that might be.
It makes the games a bit quicker, doesn't it, and a bit slicker and less rerolls. I think to be honest, I think it's the way to go.
It is, but maybe it might stay on things like the Star Drake, who once again also does mortal wound splashback from his shield. Both the Star Drake and the Celestin, I believe, does it. The Dracoth does it as well, I believe, as well. So, which they're both really cool to use it on because they're like a 3-up base.
I was just checking the book to see if the save that the Phoenix Guard get, the ward save, would you be able to use it with that, but I don't think you would because of the wording of the rule.
Yeah, it's a save roll. So unfortunately, and with how everything is changing to ward, which is good. I really like the ward keyword coming back. But yeah, so it's a solid set of command ability, command trait, and I believe the realm artifact is like +1 to run and charge. So it's not a bad. This is one of the realms that's not got a useless artifact.
I think these are great. You know, bit of mortal wound damage and 3 phases of the game potentially getting +1 to hit. I think it's great.
Yeah. Now we've talked about Gift of Prophecy more. Like, it really does make me think of like a counter-attacking army now. Now that we've talked about like how those stand and shoot units get their ability, like to get the +1 to hit in the shooting phase, so handgunners and Sister of the Watch. It now does make you think like, oh, okay, maybe this actually is the way to go, is playing this as like a beta strike or a counter castling army. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Shall we go over to command traits?
Yep. So we'll look at these. We'll see whether that builds on the theory we've got here, or I've got here. So, number 1, the general can retreat and still charge in the same turn. If they do so at the end of the turn, add 1 to hit rolls made for them and subtract 1 from hit rolls that target them. So it gives you retreat and charge and then incentivizes you to retreat and charge.
Yeah, I really like that. So what I was thinking with that is putting that on a Flamespire Phoenix and then retreating over the unit that you are in combat with.
And getting a negative modifier to hit you as well.
Yeah, so you'll do the Wake of Fire, which starts off as 5 mortal wounds, like straight away, before it's degraded.
And then can charge in and do the damage as well.
Yeah, with all the benefits that this brings.
Yeah, no, that's a really solid shout, I think, for that. This also obviously works really well with models with lances, so like Dreadlord and Black Dragon with Lance, Frigil General with Lance. Suddenly, a big issue with like those models is that the Lancers don't have like the staying power. Normally, the Cities of Sigmar heroes just lack that little bit of power to actually wipe out units in a turn. You're normally there for a turn or two with Cities of Sigmar monsters, I find. The General and the Dragon, you normally need that like 2 turns to kill something. That actually matters. Obviously, you'll kill chaff pretty fine, but this does allow the Lance options to become an actual option for you because you're going to be able to get the benefits every turn.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else really that benefits from this other than like this. This is just something for the big monsters, really.
Yeah, because they've already got the move as well. I think, on something with flies as well, it's especially good because it lets you retreat over to where you want to go.
Yeah, and all 3 of those fit the bill.
It kind of goes a little bit against what we were saying about wanting to take Wanderers for riposte, because you wouldn't really want to put this on a Nomad Prince.
No. But then again, like I was saying, I don't think a Nomad Prince is necessary with Gift of Prophecy, because that's effectively giving you what you were doing with a Nomad Prince anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So I was just thinking about getting your battle line units in, but you could always take some from Guild Guard.
Are Eternal Guard battle line pure?
Yeah, they are, but you need 3 of them. But then I think we said handgunners are a good option, aren't they? Because
so it'd probably be handgunners and like Sister of the Watch and maybe some combat units.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. And so you've got the second one in the right place at the start of the first battle round. You can pick D3 friendly units and set them up again. This is just cool. This is more useful than I think people realize when they first read it. A lot of newer people will go, "Oh, it doesn't actually give me a buff." But a lot of more, you might see this taken by like a more experienced player that goes, "Hang on a sec." Especially with like more units on the board potentially going forward, but less models. This could be cool. This could allow you to, in the new edition, distribute those blocks of 30 much better. Because you're probably going to have 2 blocks of 30 in most cities' armies, I would say. You're just going to be buffing up 2 big units, really, or 3 units of 20, something like that. But you're going to have bigger units in cities a lot more often than others, so you're going to want to make sure they can get to the fights they want to get to. So this can really make sure and help with deployment to make sure those big things are going to have things to fight.
I think this gives you the old refused flank options. So you could deploy. So we were just saying, like a monster on one side of the table, and then your opponent's thinking, "Oh my goodness, what am I going to do to deal with that?" And then they deploy their heavy hitters on that side, and then to counter that, you just say, "Oh well, actually, I'm going to move to the other side of the table now."
Yeah, that certainly is like some great strategy there as well.
That's what I was thinking when I saw that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely like some false plays as well is like something you can do.
If you know you've got a bad matchup coming up, especially in a combat unit that's like an infantry unit or something like that, like you were taking your Wildwood Rangers. If you're facing off against them the other side of the table and they're already deployed down, you just move your monster to the other side.
Yeah, if you can see like. Say a unit that's like strung out and like barely in coherency and your opponent takes a Gargant, you can just flip it over. On the same point, it means you can bring your units to bear. If you're the player playing with Wildwood Rangers in this Excelsis and your opponent deploys their monster over the other side going, haha, I'm safe from your Wildwood Rangers who can't get there, you just go, and no, you're not.
Yeah.
You can use it both ways. It has a lot more play than people might think at first look, I think.
Both good. So everything has been good so far. This has been quite a good trend.
Yeah. Darkest Secrets. So at the start of combat phase, you can pick one enemy hero within 3 inches of the general. That hero can not use command abilities. So this effectively gives you raw from the monstrous table. And it is every hero phase.
It's interesting that it's hero because it's not only heroes that can issue command abilities now.
Yeah. This is okay. But then again, heroes are going to have the non-specific ones. So this is situational, but it could like stop a really important command ability.
I'd prefer it if it was pick a unit within 3 inches and that unit cannot gain the effects of a command ability.
Yeah, that would certainly be better. And also, any use still apply. So you pick this at the start of the combat phase. If they've already got something on them, it stays.
Yeah, I think for me that's the weakest of the 3. That's probably the one that I wouldn't take because you've got to get within 3 inches of a hero, and it's just might be a bit tricky to pull off. And then also their command ability might not be great anyway. Yeah.
If you're playing against like a regular friend who's got this really cool command ability you like using with your hero, play this against your friend. But yeah, so none of them are terrible. I would say that. Like that one's not terrible. It's certainly situational, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a terrible option there. No, there's not one that I look at and go, I couldn't find a use for that.
Yeah. Okay, so that takes us on to artifacts.
Yeah. Do you want to go with these ones?
Yeah, okay. Secret heirlooms. The first one is Glimmering.
Yep.
Once per battle, before you make a hit or wound roll for an attack made by the bearer, a save roll for an attack that targets the bearer, or a run or charge roll for the bearer, you can say that you will foretell the result of the roll. I told you so. If you do so, you must choose the result of the roll. The result chosen for a d6 roll must be a whole number from 1 to 6, and the result for 2d6 must be a whole number between 2 and 12. The result cannot be re-rolled, but modifiers can be applied to it as normal. So you can make any roll a 6 or a 12, basically.
Yeah, this is cool. Like, this could be that clutch roll in a game for you.
Yeah, I think what's good about this is that you know you've got a command. You have to spend a command point to re-roll your charge, for example. But actually, this doesn't cost a command point, and you can make it guaranteed, you know, by making it a 12 or something like that. You know, you don't have to worry that I've got an 11-inch charge to make and I can re-roll, but I'm never going to make it even with a re-roll. You're just like, yeah, I'm going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah, this can come in, like, that ability there is really, really good. Just that clutch moment, making something certain is really important in a game all about chance. If you can make that chance 100%, sure.
So it's hits, wounds, saves, runs, and charges, which is pretty good. I kind of wish it was damage result as well. If you've got a d6 damage weapon, just make that a 6.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think that's who you're going to see it used on wounds and charges. Nope, never use this on hits ever. Get your hits through and then use it on a wound roll.
Yeah.
Never, ever use this on a hit. Ever.
Especially when the army's giving you +1 to hit on a 2+.
Yeah. It sounds all good in your head until you think about it. And then it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's about charges, I think.
Yeah.
Because you can already...
Charges is a hard one to get.
You can already out the double to make your run roll 6, so you don't really need it for a run.
With the new command ability, you must roll that dice now. So,
oh, okay.
You either must pick beforehand or roll the dice. So it's no longer the best of both worlds with that one.
Okay, the next one we've got is Rock Jaws, which I think is one that's come back.
Yep.
In your shooting phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 8 inches of the bearer that is visible to them and roll a dice. On a 3+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds.
The fact it's in the shooting phase, 8-inch, it's pretty lackluster, and D3.
I don't think it's too bad, because although the range is short, you can do it every turn.
Yeah, that is true. It's not like a once per use ability like some of them are.
Yeah, I mean, if I told you that you could have Arcane Bolt within 8 inches on a 3+ every turn, and it would do D3 wounds, you'd probably think, oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, that's true. I think the next one's one of my favorite though, and it's a popular one among people, or one of years gone by.
Yeah, the good old Grith Feather Charm.
This made me happy that they brought it back. Just for starters, I've liked seeing. I get really giddy or really excited when I see like old spells that I remember. You know, like I remember when Daughters of Cain came out, and everyone's like, "There's Mind Razor in it." I'm like, "Yeah,
yeah."
Well, you know, we just talked about Sylvaneth. Dwellers Below exists in the Sylvaneth, and you're like, "Yeah."
The only thing about this is, the flavor text is, rarely do these feathers fall, and those who manage to acquire one are lucky indeed. But are they lucky, or was it foretold?
I mean, it's a Griff Feather Charm as well. Like, what sort of Griff? Because, like, I assume if you get murdered, that, like, it's clearly like a Griffhound's feather, where to actually get the Griffin feather, are the ones that, like, survive battles. But yeah, it literally is the same rules it used to be too.
So subtract 1 for hit rolls that target the bearer. In addition, add 1 to the bearer's move characteristic.
I mean, subtracting 1 from hit rolls is just nice in general. This obviously is going on a monster.
What I'm going to say about this is, get this in with the command trait Cunning Foe while you can, because they will not stack in the future. But for now, until the new edition lands, you've got now until then to get -2 to hit on your character if he's retreated.
Yeah, get it in while you can. It ain't going to be there for long. But what this does is, because we're going to, like, with core battalions that we know about and stuff like that, we're going to assume there's extra access to more artifacts and stuff like that. Yeah, and they command trait and an artifact as well. So you can put these on different monsters, which is nice. So you can have that cunning foe on your Phoenix, and you can have this on, say, pick your choice of Dreadlord on Black Dragon or Frostart Phoenix.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Like Frostart Phoenix was one of the ones I used to see with this a lot. Used to be that Mangler Squigs. This used to be the one that people used to toss up with between this and Ethereal Amulet. It was which one is better.
Yeah, on a Frost Heart, it's really nice because it's -1 to hit and then also -1 to wound for the Frost Aura.
Yeah, and an extra move because the Phoenixes aren't particularly fast for flying models.
Actually, now I'm thinking, like I said, you've not got long left. So Griff of the Crown, Cunning Foe, and then Far's Protection from your Battle Mage. And now you're -3 to hit. And
then just throw out like Word of Pain from a Sorceress and Geminids. Did we just make like -6? Okay.
And this is why they're rewriting the rules.
Yeah, and that right there, that conversation about how to get to -6 is why we only have +1 -1. Although it is only on hits and wounds, that should be noted. There is multiple way, so you can still bravery bomb and all that sort of stuff in the new edition.
Yeah,
which is cool. I like bravery bombing. There's some cool stuff to do with it. But the artifacts, none of them are terrible. I think Rocktra is probably the obvious loser.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But it's not
Glimmerings
terrible.
Again, situational, I think.
Glimmerings will win you. If you play a tournament, Glimmerings will probably win you one game every 2 tournaments. Like, just win you the game with that roll.
Yeah.
If not 1 in 5. Like, Glimmerings will be a key part as to you winning a game at a tournament.
I think there are builds of armies that will benefit from Glimmerings. I think, I've played against City's armies that have tried really hard for a long bomb in turn 1 to try and get things in and do some damage and stuff like that. So, on the right kind of monster, you could go into that key unit.
Yeah, if you could get, a Dreadlord on Black Dragon or a Frigga General on Griffin to get a long bomb charge into like a Techless, they'll probably kill him before he puts up his shield. But spells, the last thing, I think this is probably the weakest part of Excelsis, I will say.
Yeah, I agree. When I looked at these, I thought they were a bit lackluster, but it's cool to see these spells back from the Lore of Beasts that we remember.
Yeah, every single one of them exists in the Lore of Beasts, is a bring back spell. So we've got the Amber Spear, which we have seen before. It is on the Battle Mage on Griffin. This is the actual spell on his thing as well. It's exactly the same.
Yeah,
you effectively draw a line and do mortal wounds to everyone in that. This is really good for armies that like to bunch up the heroes. So funnily enough, playing like another city's army that's running Halihar or versing a Gobblepalooza and stuff like that, or like lots of Khorne characters around their shrine, that sort of thing. Bray Shamans near the Herdstone, etc. It has some use, but the fact it's 1 mortal wound, it'd be nice if it was like on a 2 to 5 do 1 mortal wound, on a 6 do D3.
I think it should be a bit like the old cannonball, where like you draw a line through the unit, and then whatever you've touched, like whatever you've clipped with that line, like on a 4+ or a 5+, you do a mortal wound, something like that.
Yeah, that could be the other way to do it, and I think both versions just make the spell a lot more interesting.
But yeah, I don't know. It's 12 inches, which is quite short anyway, and then you're going to do 1 mortal wound to a unit. I wouldn't be taking it, to be honest.
Now, that being said, if there's lots more units on the table, that becomes a little bit better. Not a lot, but a little bit. Flock of Doom is the other one. Casting value of 6. Pick an enemy unit with an 18-inch and you roll 12 dice. For each 6, you do a mortal wound. Once again, for each 6, do a mortal wound. And it's another damage spell. It's just a different way of doing damage. It's probably better than Amber Spear.
It's a longer range, and you're likely to do 2 mortal wounds. So if you're only going to 1 unit with the Amber Spear and it's shorter range, it's already better in my mind.
Yeah. But for me, it's just like it's another damage spell.
Yeah.
Like, we just got 2 damage spells straight out that both are quite meh.
Yeah.
I'd rather... Flock of Doom, I'd rather be paying points for the swords, Quicksilver swords, and casting that.
Yeah, especially
which has 12 dice.
Because it's empowered as well, isn't it?
Yep, has 15 dice then. And the 6s do mortals and 5s against chaos.
And also, don't forget that there are spells on the war scrolls for your wizards already, which are better than these.
Yeah, like Wisdom's Wild Form is vastly better for your Beast Mage if you're going, thematic. Cower's okay. So Cower, casting value of 6 is successfully cast. Pick an enemy monster within 12 of the caster that is visible to them and roll 2d6. If it's equal or higher, if it's higher than the monster's bravery characteristic, the monster can't move. This is decent.
Yeah.
Because generally monsters are quite low bravery, unless you're demons or Seraphon. But it does say monster, so this means all those big monster heroes are taking this as well. But generally, they're higher bravery.
But it's still a good chance, and it's still worth it because also, it's got that fear factor to it. So if your opponent's general has got a chance of not being able to move, they're going to want to try and dispel this spell. So it kind of gives you the chance to sneak another spell through if they don't have that many dispels.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's not guaranteed you're going to get it, but your opponent has to play with that chance if they don't dispel it.
Yeah. So I would say it's one that your opponent's always going to want to dispel, and then it will help you get through another spell. Not that potentially you'd want to then do Amber Spear, but if you've got something good on your War Scroll, you'll get that through.
Yeah. I think Excelsis is interesting. I think it's got play. I think it's not probably Settler's Gain or Harkuron. I think it falls below I think it's better than Misthaven, as much as it pains me to say so. I think Harkuron just gives you the path more than this one does. This one doesn't sort of give you the path as easy. Harkuron, you read Harkuron and you know what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do, Luke, is I would like us to design the army list that I'm going to take with Excelsis in my next game, based around what we just talked about.
So what did we discuss about? We think it's sort of counterplay. There's a lot of things that can work really well in counterplay, and monster heroes definitely seem to get a lot out of this city.
Yeah.
So I think that's 2 things to sort of go on. I think your Flamespire Phoenix idea is probably the way to go for a hero, taking a Cunning Foe. And I think you could probably try and fit a double monster in here to give yourself a Griff Feather Charm on a monster to make that monster better. Now, if you're going to run this soon, now there's 2 ways you could put this. You could either have the Frigil General on Griffin, or 3 ways. So he gives himself +1. So at the moment, you can double stack +1 on him.
Yeah.
Because his command ability himself is +1. Or the Dreadlord and Black Dragon's ability is +1 a wound. So he could be +1 a hit, +1 a wound. So he's nice. And then obviously we've talked about the way you could run a monster to also get the Griff Feather Charm on that monster to be -1 to hit, -1 to wound on the Frost Heart. So double Phoenix could be really interesting, I think. You could have a cool hammer and anvil style Phoenix play here.
Yeah, I think the double Phoenix would be great. A bit of fire and ice.
Yeah, and it's quite funny because they're literally going to play like that. You're going to have the Fire Phoenix moving around, doing the damage, and the Frost Heart you can send in at -1 to hit, -1 to wound with a Griff Feather Charm to be like the unit that can go in and tie something up.
Yeah, I think that is what I'm going to do. I think that sounds awesome fun.
Yeah, I think wizards in this. I don't really know if you need wizards in this army at all, other than dispels.
The wizards in this army are Sisters of the Thorn, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that's where you're going. So I think you're going to take some wanderers as your core.
So you have a big old unit of Eternal Guard.
And
I
think then, maybe some, because they're pure battle line, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that means you could take 2 units of free guild handgunners, which would probably be good picks.
Yeah, because they'll do, like you said, the reactive shooting if they get charged.
I think that's probably your battle line, and then it's really just filling in the gaps. Really, do you want to take Sisters of Watch and push more down the shooting? Phoenix Guard are just good in this because they just get better. As we said, good War Scrolls just get better in this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the way I look at going. So 2 Phoenixes, and then Sisters of the Thorn and Eternal Guard, and then a couple units of handgunners, and then we'll see where we go from there. But all of those seem to will get the maximum utility out of this, I think.
Yeah, and if you're going to go like another hero, I'd probably just put in like a Rune Lord or something like that. Cheap, gives you dispels, because there's none of those spells you want to cast really. Like if you're just looking to get in some dispel protection, I'd just take a Rune Lord.
Yeah. The only spell you're going to want to cast, like I said, is the one on the War Scroll, isn't it? For the Sister of the Thorn, the splashback damage.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Trying to think. Like, is there anything else? Like, if you want to fit in some Stormcast, like if you can, like Sequitors become really good in this. Riposte on Sequitors is nice because they've got the ability to reroll. Although Liberators are also nice, like they don't reroll everything like Sequitors, but you can get reroll 1s, which is nice with Riposte and their battle line.
Yeah.
But I think that's a cool. Like, I really do think the double Phoenix in this could be really fun.
Yeah, I think it could be. And also, it will be something that you'll be able to use in the next edition because it doesn't stack that -1.
Yeah, and this is something interesting to think about for the next edition. And I think it's sort of pushing you towards is spreading those bonuses out rather than making that one killer beast.
Yeah.
But I think we've pretty much wrapped up Excelsis, really, and wrapped up Broken Realms in general. It's been a fun series to follow along with. I've got my wad of books here. But yeah, what have been your thoughts on Broken Realms in general?
Oh, I've just loved it, to be honest. I think it's just so good to see. I think the narrative has been really great, to be honest, more than anything, more than the updated rules and things like that. It's just so great to see everything carried forward. And it just sets us up so nicely for the next edition. And I'm really excited to see what that holds. I'm pleased that the whole Necroquake stuff is over with, because I'm much more excited, to be honest, about life magic surging around and there being massive monsters around the place than I was about things kind of decaying and becoming dead. I think this is going to be great, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster for Cities players. You've got great new cities, and then you've had old cities like destroyed. It's had its ups and downs, but I think it's just been great to see unfold, really, and just wait to get the next book and think, oh, what's going to happen?
Yeah. And well, we can't not say something. That new terrain just looks amazing to actually show us what a city looks like being built. I think we've got out of the grimdark phase. Like Age of Sigmar was very grimdark for a while with the Necroquake, and it's very much going away from that now with this whole bright, heroic sort of almost Nordic mythology now with like all these giant monsters popping up. I think we're going to enter, which is cool. Like, I like that they've changed the style that the lore is each time because of like what god's in ascendance and all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
And maybe you should start paying some dwarves because apparently Grungy's back and he's pretty happy. Because I talked about this at the end of the narrative show, talking about like the roundup of Broken Realms. Because there's 4 major sort of stories. We obviously have Alariel like sort of continuing on her quest. Teclis is plagued by visions because Nagash's spirit is haunting him from beyond the grave. And you've got Bellicor and the twins sort of chatting to each other and talking and going, haha, I was actually better than you thought. And taunting each other. But Morathi's the interesting one, where Morathi at the end goes to Sigmaron, is about to get in a throwdown with Celestin Prime because Sigmar can't meet her for some reason because he's working with someone. And then Grungy rocks up. And that's pretty much what we end on Broken Realms. So,
just can't wait to see what is around the corner. Like I said, Dawnbringer Crusades are really interesting me at the moment.
Yeah. I think I'm going to pick some Dwarven, maybe after this game. But with that said, I will say, want to say thank you to everyone for watching the podcast. Thank you for coming and joining us, despite some technical difficulties at times. We got there. But thank you all. And thank you to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members and any other way. If you'd like to get something to help support the channel, you can do so by going and grabbing a little bit of channel merch. Down in the description of the video is a link to Teespring, where we've got some cool little shirts with all the brand new Cities characters that we've got released. So the Sorceress, Wildwood Ranger, and the Scourge Privateer are all there. And we'll be joined by some friends soon enough. But with that said, Dan, thank you for coming on and joining me once again. We'll have a chat soon, probably just after the new edition drops, or once we've got the full picture. I think we'll have a chat about cities in general and our first thoughts of them in the new game proper.
See how they shape up.
Yeah. Until then, everyone, stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey